Chapter 3. Shattered Trust. The days following the intense encounter in the barn passed in a fragile illusion of peace within the grand palace of Ilaria. Orm's family had fully settled into their comfortable apartments in the West Wing, a kindness granted by Ling that brought the young consort a small but genuine sense of home amid the overwhelming luxury. Koi, with her gentle hands and kind heart, fussed endlessly over her daughter, adjusting the folds of new gowns, brushing her long dark hair with care, and offering quiet words of wisdom late into the evenings by the warm fireplace. Ming moved about with quiet gratitude, helping in the palace gardens when permitted, his farmer's hands still calloused from years of honest labor despite the servants who now handled most tasks. Nope, Orm's mischievous brother found endless amusement in the luxury around him, exploring the vast halls and testing the softness of the beds, though he toned down his usual teasing now that royal eyes watched their every move. One quiet afternoon, as golden sunlight streamed through the tall, arched windows of the private family sitting room, Orm sat across from her mother at a small ornate table. Koi poured fragrant herbal tea into delicate porcelain cups, her weathered face etched with loving concern and a touch of worry for her daughter's future happiness. "My sweet girl," Koi began softly, sliding a cup toward Orm with steady hands. "You cannot keep carrying this heavy anger forever. It will eat away at you from the inside. The Queen has been more than fair in many ways. She gave Chen a respected position among the royal knights at your simple request. Without hesitation, she holds you close every night, even when you pretend to resist her touch. I see the spark in her eyes when she looks at you across the table or during your garden walks. Tonight, try to soften your heart just a little. Wear something revealing to bed. Let her see that you are willing to offer warmth instead of constant ice and defiance. A wife who shows even a glimmer of desire may find that her golden chains feel less like prison bars and more like a shared embrace." Orm's cheeks burned with embarrassment as she stared into her tea, fingers tracing the delicate rim. Memories of Ling's possessive hands, heated whispers, and the way her body had betrayed her in the barn flooded back unbidden. The stubborn fire that had burned in her since the day she was purchased still raged strongly, but it was now mixed with confusing flickers of something warmer and more dangerous. "She bought me with gold, Mother. She paid for my hand, my body, and my entire future like I was livestock at the market. I will fulfill my duties as her consort. I gave my word on that. But I refuse to pretend feelings that are not truly there in my heart." Koi sighed deeply, reaching across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand with maternal affection. "Pride is a heavy burden to carry alone, Orm. Just try, for your own peace of mind if nothing else. The path of constant resistance will only exhaust you and make the days longer and colder." Orm nodded vaguely, but her mind remained deeply conflicted as she left the room. She wandered the palace corridors for a long while afterward, her thoughts swirling with the weight of her new life. The opulence that surrounded her every day still felt foreign and overwhelming. The marble floors that gleamed underfoot, the rich tapestries depicting ancient battles and royal lineages hanging on the walls, the servants who bowed deeply and addressed her with titles she had never imagined would belong to a simple farmer's daughter. Yet beneath all the luxury and status, the core issue remained unchanged. She had been bought, and that knowledge gnawed at her constantly, refusing to fade. In the shadowed alcoves of the palace gardens that same evening, under a flowering tree whose petals drifted gently in the evening breeze, a far more sinister conversation unfolded. Mon, dressed in a striking crimson gown that clung to her curves like a second skin, stood close to Chen. Her voice was low and venomous, laced with calculated sweetness as she leaned in, her expensive perfume heavy in the air between them. "You still burn for her, don't you, Knight? That pathetic, hopeless love shining in your eyes whenever Orm walks by. Good. Use it. Help me tear this mockery of a marriage apart once and for all. We will convince Queen Ling that Orm has been cheating with you long before the wedding ever took place, that the innocent little peasant preserved her virginity only by pleasuring you with her mouth on her knees like a common whore. We will plant seeds that Orm is only interested in Ling's vast wealth and power. Then, after the coronation, we set her up at your private cottage. Ling will discover her there with you in a compromising position. The resulting scandal will force the queen to discard her purchased bride, and she will finally turn to someone of proper royal blood. Me. Chen's handsome face twisted with a storm of pain, jealousy, and reluctant determination. The sounds of Orm's broken moans and Ling's possessive growls from the barn still haunted his sleepless nights, turning his once pure affection into something darker and sharper. He remembered the carefree days when he would visit the farm, helping with chores just to catch glimpses of Orm, laughing with her over simple meals under the open sky. Those memories now felt tainted and painful. Orm will never forgive me if she learns the full truth. She thinks of me only as a loyal childhood friend, nothing more. Mon's lips curled into a cold, triumphant smile as she traced a finger along the rough bark of the tree. She won't discover the full truth if we play this carefully and methodically. First, I will steal the ancient crystal crown from the royal safe, the priceless heirloom passed down through Ling's family for generations, said to hold mystical blessings from the kingdom's founders. I will shatter it into pieces and hide the fragments among Orm's belongings. When Ling finds out it is missing and damaged, I will make sure she believes her thieving wife is responsible. Next comes the letter. You will write it yourself, pouring out your supposed longing, accusing Orm of staying only for the riches and status, and reminding her of how eagerly she used to kneel for you in secret. I will slip it among her new dresses where it will be easily discovered. After the coronation feast, you will lure Orm to your cottage with a false story that you have proof of Ling's affair with me. The trap will spring perfectly, and doubt will poison their relationship beyond repair. Chen clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white, his mind racing with conflicting emotions. The vivid image of Orm writhing under Ling in the hay burned behind his eyes like a brand. If it frees her from this golden cage, then I will do it, for her sake, even if she hates me afterward. Mon laughed softly, the sound carrying a dangerous edge through the quiet garden. Exactly as I thought. The seeds of doubt are already being planted, and soon they will grow into something that will tear this marriage asunder. The coronation ceremony arrived faster than anyone anticipated, bringing with it a whirlwind of activity that consumed the entire palace from dawn until late at night. On the eve of the grand event, Ling returned to the royal chambers well after midnight, her shoulders weighed down by the immense responsibilities awaiting her as the new queen. She had spent the entire day in long consultations with advisors, reviewing ancient rituals from dusty tomes, meeting with diplomats from neighboring kingdoms, and ensuring every detail of the ceremony would be flawless down to the last flower petal and musical note. As she stepped into the antechamber, her boots echoing softly on the polished floor, Mon and her mother Mint were already waiting, their expressions carefully arranged into masks of worried sympathy and concern. "Cousin," Mon said, her voice dripping with false concern as she stepped forward gracefully, "I regret burdening you on such an important night, but something dreadful has occurred. The sacred crystal crown, your family's generational heirloom kept securely in the royal safe, has been stolen and deliberately shattered into pieces. I noticed Orm lingering near the safe earlier today when I passed by. When I checked her dressing chambers out of concern for the family's honor, I discovered the broken fragments hidden among her personal belongings, tucked away as if she hoped no one would find them." Ling's beautiful face hardened into a mask of cold fury, her dark eyes narrowing dangerously. Without speaking a single word, she followed Mon and Mint to the consort's rooms, her strides long and purposeful. Mint produced a small velvet pouch with dramatic flair, opening it to reveal the jagged, glittering shards of the priceless crystal crown. The artifact, said to carry the blessings of Ilaria's first queens and to symbolize the unbroken line of rule, now lay ruined in the soft fabric. Rage boiled in Ling's veins like molten lava, her hands clenching at her sides. But she kept her silence for the moment, processing the accusation. She accepted the pouch, her jaw set like stone, and dismissed the two women with a sharp nod. "Leave me. I will deal with this matter personally. Do not speak of it to anyone else until I have investigated. When Ling finally pushed open the door to the royal bedroom, however, every ounce of her simmering anger evaporated in a single heartbeat, replaced by a rush of desire that hit her like a wave. Orm stood near the edge of the massive four-poster bed, illuminated by the soft, flickering glow of dozens of candles that cast warm, intimate shadows across the room. Following her mother's advice more than she cared to admit, Orm had chosen something far more alluring than her usual modest night attire. She wore a sheer lavender chemise made of the finest imported silk, so delicate it was almost translucent in the candlelight. The fabric clung lovingly to every curve of her lithe, athletic body honed from years of farm work, the hem skimming just below mid-thigh and the low, plunging neckline offering a tantalizing view of the soft swell of her breasts. Her long, dark hair fell in loose waves over one shoulder, and a delicate blush painted her cheeks, a mixture of nervous determination and reluctant anticipation. She shifted slightly under Ling's intense gaze, the silk whispering against her skin. Ling froze in the doorway, her breath stolen away completely. The heavy velvet pouch containing the broken crown pieces suddenly felt insignificant and forgotten in her hand. The sight of her wife presenting herself so vulnerably, so beautifully, and with such clear effort to please overwhelmed every accusation and suspicion. Without a word, Ling crossed the room in long, purposeful strides and dropped the pouch unceremoniously into a nearby decorative waste bin. The crystal fragments clattered softly against the bottom and were instantly forgotten, buried under layers of rising passion. "You are breathtaking tonight, my wife," Ling murmured, her voice dropping into that low, husky register that always made Orm's pulse quicken and her knees feel weak. She pulled Orm flush against her body, strong hands sliding possessively over the sheer fabric to grip her waist firmly, thumbs stroking the sensitive skin beneath. Orm's breath hitched sharply, her stubborn pride fighting a losing battle against the undeniable heat pooling low in her belly. "My mother suggested I try to be less cold toward you this evening. I thought perhaps—" A slow, possessive smile curved Ling's lips as she leaned in closer, her breath warm against Orm's ear. "Then allow me to reward such thoughtful obedience in the way I know best." What followed was a slow, intense, and thoroughly passionate claiming that filled the room with heat and sound. Ling captured Orm's mouth in a deep, devouring kiss, their tongues tangling passionately as hands explored with growing urgency and familiarity. Ling guided her wife onto the luxurious bed, slowly peeling the delicate chemise away inch by inch to reveal smooth, flushed skin that glowed in the candlelight. Orm gasped and arched her back as Ling's mouth trailed hot, open-mouthed kisses down her neck, sucking dark, claiming marks into the sensitive flesh, then moving lower to lavish thorough attention on her breasts, tongue circling and teeth grazing lightly, skilled fingers teased between Orm's thighs, discovering her already slick and ready with arousal. "You are always so wet and eager for me, even when you try to deny it," Ling whispered hotly against her skin, voice thick with desire. She slid 2 fingers inside with practiced ease, curling them perfectly against that sensitive spot, while her thumbs circled the swollen bundle of nerves at the apex of Orm's thighs with firm, rhythmic pressure. Orm moaned loudly, her hips bucking wildly, her hands fisting the silk sheets beneath her as waves of pleasure built rapidly. Ling was relentless and thorough, drawing out every moan, every tremor, and every gasp. She brought Orm to the brink with her fingers alone, then replaced them with her talented mouth, tongue flicking and sucking with expert precision until Orm shattered with a sharp, broken cry of pleasure that echoed through the chambers. Still not satisfied, Ling flipped her wife onto her stomach, pressing her down into the soft mattress with gentle but firm pressure. She entered her again from behind with 3 fingers this time, thrusting deep and possessively while grinding her own body against Orm's thigh for her own friction. Orm came a second time, her voice cracking as she gasped Ling's name into the pillows, body trembling uncontrollably with overwhelming sensation. Unbeknownst to the couple locked in their passionate embrace, Mon and Mint had silently crept to the heavy bedroom door, ears pressed eagerly against the polished wood. They had expected shouts of rage, accusations of theft, and the sound of tears or arguments. Instead, they were met with rhythmic, breathless moans, gasping cries of pleasure, and Ling's deep, commanding growls of possession and dominance. Mon's eyes flew wide in disbelief and frustration. "Listen to those sounds! She must be beating the little whore senseless for stealing the crown!" Mint quickly clamped a hand over her daughter's arm, a sly, knowing smirk spreading across her face as she shook her head. "Hush, you foolish child. Those are not cries of pain at all. Your cousin is fucking her thoroughly and passionately, making her scream with pleasure instead of anger. Our plan did not succeed tonight, but we still have tomorrow, and many more opportunities to sow deeper discord and doubt." The coronation day itself dawned bright and majestic, the sky a perfect canvas of clear blue and golden sunlight that bathed the kingdom in warmth. The Grand Hall of Ilaria had been transformed into a breathtaking spectacle of color, fragrant flowers, glittering chandeliers, and elaborate decorations. Nobles in their finest attire, foreign ambassadors representing allied kingdoms, and even common citizens who had been granted entry packed every available space, their excited murmurs filling the vast room. Fanfare from trumpets and ceremonial drums filled the air with stirring music as Queen Lingling, resplendent in full royal regalia of deep emerald velvet, embroidered with intricate gold thread and symbols of power, ascended the raised dais with regal grace and confidence. Orm stood proudly beside her in a matching gown of shimmering silver and sapphire that highlighted her natural beauty, looking every inch the elegant and composed queen consort, despite the anxiety and uncertainty churning deep in her stomach. The ceremony was nothing short of magnificent and deeply moving. The former Queen Neen, with visible tears of pride and emotion in her eyes, placed the newly prepared symbolic crown upon her daughter's head, officially declaring Ling as Queen Lingling of Ilaria in a voice that carried throughout the hall. Thunderous cheers and applause erupted from the assembled crowd, the sound echoing far beyond the palace walls and throughout the kingdom as bells rang in celebration. Ling reached for Orm's hand with a firm, public gesture, lifting it high for all to witness, a powerful symbol of unity, strength, shared rule, and the new era beginning for Ilaria. Yet beneath the pageantry, the cheers and the celebration, Mon and Chen moved their conspiracy forward with ruthless efficiency and careful timing. During the lavish post-ceremony feast and dancing that lasted for hours, while Orm was momentarily distracted by congratulatory conversations with well-wishers and nobles curious about the peasant-turned-consort, Mon sneaked discreetly into the royal dressing chambers. With quick, practiced fingers and a heart full of malice, she tucked a carefully folded letter deep among Orm's newly tailored dresses in the wardrobe. The parchment was sealed with plain wax and written in Chen's neat, familiar handwriting. "My dearest Orm, I miss you more than words can express. Every single night I lie awake, burning with rage and jealousy, knowing you are forced to share a bed with that royal bitch merely for her vast wealth, power, and elevated position in society. You were never meant for her cold, calculating palace life. Remember how eagerly you used to come to me on your knees in secret, your sweet, warm mouth pleasuring me so skillfully and willingly. I still dream of those intimate moments constantly and long for them again. After the coronation celebrations finally end tonight, please come to my private cottage at the edge of the palace grounds without fail. I have obtained solid proof of her secret affair with Lady Mon. We can finally be together again, free from her golden cage and all her lies. Forever yours in love and devotion, Chen." Later that same evening, as the grand festivities began to wind down and guests started to depart, Chen approached Orm in a quiet, dimly lit hallway away from the main crowds. His expression was carefully crafted to show urgent concern and sincerity, his voice low and urgent. "Orm, I need to speak with you alone. It is important and cannot wait even another hour." I overheard Queen Ling and Lady Mon speaking intimately in the private gardens earlier today. They discussed an ongoing affair that has apparently been happening for weeks behind closed doors and in secret meetings. I have concrete proof: stolen letters, servant testimonies, and even a hidden witness. But it is too dangerous to discuss openly here where walls have ears. Meet me at my cottage on the palace outskirts right after the feast concludes. I will show you everything so you can see the truth with your own eyes and decide what to do. Orm's heart twisted with a painful mix of confusion, betrayal, and reluctant doubt. Although she had repeatedly told herself Chen was nothing more than a loyal childhood friend who had always protected her, the thought that Ling might be unfaithful, especially after all her fierce, possessive declarations and passionate claims, sent a sharp, unexpected sting through her chest. I will come, but only to see this so-called proof with my own eyes, nothing more. As the grand celebrations slowly faded into the night, Orm slipped away unnoticed through side passages and made her way through the darkening palace grounds to Chen's modest but well-kept cottage. The knight was waiting inside, the door left slightly ajar, nervous energy and tension radiating from his entire posture as he paced. "Orm, thank the gods you came," he said, his voice thick with emotion as he turned to face her. "The proof I mentioned is right here, but first let me explain." He never had the chance to finish the sentence or present his fabricated evidence. Heavy, purposeful footsteps suddenly echoed from outside, growing louder and more menacing. Queen Ling appeared in the doorway, flanked by two loyal royal guards with stern expressions, her face a terrifying mask of cold, thunderous fury that made the air in the cottage feel icy. Mon had conveniently informed her earlier that Orm had been seen heading secretly toward the knight's quarters, and the planted letter had conveniently been discovered when Ling had gone searching for a dress she wished to gift her wife as a gesture of reconciliation. "What in the name of the gods is happening here?" Ling demanded, her voice dangerously calm and low as she stepped fully into the small cottage, her presence filling the space. Her sharp eyes darted between Orm's suddenly pale face and Chen's shocked expression. "My own wife, sneaking away to a knight's private cottage on the very night of my coronation like some common adulteress." Orm froze in place, her blood running cold and her heart pounding wildly in her chest. "Ling, please, this is not what it looks like at all. He said he had proof." Chen attempted to step forward defensively. "Your Majesty, I swear I only wanted to—" Ling's fist smashed into Chen's jaw with brutal, unrestrained force before he could utter another word in his defense. The knight staggered backward, blood already trickling from his lip, but the queen showed no mercy whatsoever. She seized him by the collar of his uniform with iron strength, slamming him hard against the wooden wall of the cottage, then drove her knee viciously into his stomach. Blow after brutal blow followed in rapid succession, powerful fists to his face, sharp elbows to his ribs, and kicks that landed with sickening thuds, until Chen collapsed to the floor in a bloodied, gasping heap, barely conscious and groaning in agony. The royal guards remained motionless nearby, wisely choosing not to intervene in their queen's personal and righteous wrath. "You dared to lay your filthy hands on what belongs exclusively to me?" Ling snarled viciously, delivering one final savage kick to Chen's side that made him curl up in pain. "Did my wife come running here tonight to get on her knees for you again like the whore she apparently is, you worthless traitor? Is that why she kept herself so carefully virgin, saving that eager mouth exclusively for her secret lover, while spreading her legs so willingly and frequently for her queen?" Orm cried out in horror and despair, hot tears streaming uncontrollably down her cheeks as she watched the violent scene unfold helplessly. "Stop this at once, please, Ling. He has only ever been a friend. I came here because he claimed he had proof that you and Mon were having an affair." Ling whirled around to face her wife with blazing eyes full of betrayal, possessive fury, and deep emotional hurt. "Proof? Nothing but desperate lies from a pathetic man who thinks he can steal my wife away from me. You are nothing more than a purchased whore pretending to be queen while plotting behind my back." With a bruising, unrelenting grip on Orm's arm that would surely leave marks, Ling dragged the sobbing young woman out of the cottage without another glance at the injured knight, paying no heed to her desperate pleas, apologies, or tears. The guards followed in disciplined silence as the queen marched them back through the palace corridors, where lingering guests whispered and stared openly at the shocking, dramatic sight of the new queen dragging her consort in obvious distress. They finally reached the opulent royal chambers after what felt like an eternity. Ling shoved Orm roughly inside the familiar room, then turned to the heavy oak door with grim determination. With deliberate final movements, she slammed it shut and turned the large iron key in the lock with a loud, resounding click that echoed through the silent space like a death knell or the sealing of fate. The air inside the locked bedroom immediately thickened with unspoken accusations, burning unresolved desire, shattered trust, and the dangerous promise of confrontation and passion that was yet to come between the queen and her purchased bride.